Hello and welcome to another installation of TechTalk. Yes, we have another great TechTalk prepared for you, and it is Friday. I have not forgotten about that. Mike, why don't you break it to us?
Okay guys, today we're talking boniness. It's not you, it's me. So is it you, is it me? It's not you, it's me. So we're going to be talking all things densifiers, tooling, the materials. We're going to be discussing everything today to, as I say, talk about boniness or hopefully in the end, the lack thereof. What are your thoughts, boys?
It's a good topic, Mike. It's a good one, mate. Like, it really is. If I'm ever assessing a piece of material like concrete that I'm working with and it looks bony and it's quite a soft slab, well, automatically I know that it's a bony slab and I need to put the right materials into it and manufacture it the right way on site. So straight away I know that my densification process on the floor is going to probably take a lot more than what it would normally on a piece of concrete that's been poured for polished concrete, the normal specs that we're asking for out there. So straight away we know that we're going to need to put a little bit more work into this floor using the chemicals that we have. That's what I'm thinking with Boney. And also when we're talking bony floors, I'm really big on setting up the foundations of polished concrete. So it doesn't matter how high we're going in the gloss, it doesn't matter how low we're going in the gloss. If we set up those foundations right after grouting and we get that densifier in there to the point of rejection and we don't move forward from that point, if we keep going on that same track the whole time while we're thinking of polished concrete, foundations, getting it prepped all the way up to like 100 or a 200 resin, we should not be seeing boniness in the floor. Treat it the same, I believe.
Let's say we're doing a surface polish Kurt. Are we talking same principles?
No, we're not talking same principles there. I'm talking more of a bony floor that we're doing an aggregate exposure floor. So we're actually opening it up. So if it's already bony and we're going to open it up and make it even more bony, then we need to get that structure and that surface strong enough to be able to start taking the process that we're going to start giving to it. And we can go as far back as, because we're pretty much talking about densification here, guys. Would I be right or wrong?
Right.
Mostly.
Mostly? Yeah, mostly.
But define boniness. Just break it to us.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, boys.
My definition of bony floor is really, it's an undensified floor. You can see it. You can see that it's either undensified or it has been grounded poorly.
Looks a little on the raw side.
It's just a little on the raw side. It just doesn't have that clarity. It doesn't have that tightness that we're looking for, because that's essentially what we're looking for when we are polishing. That the floor is starting to build up and tighten. You know what I mean? If we are not seeing that in our early stages in the foundations of building that, then we need to address it then and there. And we also need to address it then and there with the tool that can remove it. There's no point just keep putting densifier into the floor and get all the way up to 800s. Personally, I believe if you need to get the densifier into the floor, you need to use the right tool to be able to remove that in the lower stages.
Right.
Is there ever too much, if using too much densifier or?
Well, that's all cut, Mike. That's a good one, man. Like, it all comes down to reading the floor. If, we're always drumming on about to the point of rejection with the densifier on the floor. So if we have hit that point, we're good to go. Like, we've got all the tooling on the market there, from worksets to be able to remove that densifier, and we've got the machinery to be able to remove that, and using, tricks and tips with reactivation and how much reactivation, driplets and droplets, all that stuff there that becomes an extra tools in your toolkit to be able to remove that densifier. I personally know there is not too much densifier. Like, it's just, I'm still at my low stages. I know I can still remove that to build the floor up. So
you're honing now. You're not polishing.
I'm honing, exactly.
So when do you know you have enough densifier in the floor, Kurt? Like, what are the tail signs of knowing I have enough in there?
Oh man, that's good.
And I'm still talking about using the correct densifier. I'm talking about right now, totally boost potassium.
Right, cool. If we're talking about the boost, I want to see it gritty, dirty, and yellow.
Like a brownie yellow.
And on top, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You can see it. Yeah.
I just like when Kurt mentions that texture is after, just the smile on the look of his face, like, oh yeah. That's what
it's that acne.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just gritty. It's just dirty. It's just like if you were to walk on there on bare feet the next day, you'd cut yourself up.
Jeez, brutal.
Vicious.
You don't have to check it that way, guys.
I mean, normally it goes. It turns to like a golden yellow color, and it's really sitting on top of the surface. Almost like a really poorly placed coating. That's essentially what you're looking for. It's on top. You're good to go.
Yeah.
If you are still seeing boniness after your 50 polish, you still have more. You still got another couple of goes to still get densifier into the floor. There's no point moving past that. You know what I mean? There's no point moving past that densification stage. If you've taken it off with your 50s and you're still seeing boniness, get more in it at 100s. If you're still seeing boniness at 100s, well, it would be my personal preference to still get it in at 100s and to still remove it with the 100s, because that's going to be the fastest tool to remove it. You know what I mean?
Address it then and there instead of chasing it down the track as well. As you mentioned, like, an important visual thing, this is the question I get asked a lot: what does it look like when I have enough densifier? And so if you're seeing it blotty and after your first application, that's a sign that that's probably not enough of densifying that floor. If it's not a nice, even, that golden color across the floor. So what you're really looking for is a nice, even texture, but also the color is very important. So if you're not getting that, it's time to top it up.
Just wait another 20 minutes, Milan. Is that what you're saying before? A bit of a myth there about...
No, I think Josh can explain the magic 20-minute mark a little bit better than I can.
Look, the magic 20-minute mark, I think... Look, it's a good rule of thumb, okay? If you put down the densifier and you put it down to the point of rejection, we're going to wait for gravity to do its thing and draw that densifier down. After 20 minutes, you come back, and if there's some blotches in the floor that have soaked it up and then the rest of it's, uniformly, golden, you got to top up those sections that are dry. That'll help prevent it from drying up Boney, okay? Because the surface tension on a slab is not uniform, and the materials themselves and the way the concrete is made up is not uniform throughout the surface area. So you're going to have to expect some areas are going to suck it in, and some areas it's going to sit more to the top because it's not going to, it's not going to absorb as much. After about 20 minutes, it's probably not going to suck in much more, all right? Because of obviously the gravity and the size of the cavity that it's got to fill. But 20-minute rule, I think, actually came from somewhere else, from the days of sodium, where basically it was left on the surface for that long before then being neutralized and removed after about 20 minutes. And that kind of became the thing. But then there was also another thing that came after that was you must leave that densifier on the concrete for 8 hours before you can get back onto it. That's not necessarily the case. And we've talked about this in other shows, that you might do the extended curing period on a really soft slab that needs a whole lot more help, okay? Because it's just like concrete, it has a initial reaction that's pretty steep and then it tapers off, and the longer cure may be required on those really soft and naturally bony slabs.
Yeah.
If you've got a modern concrete and it's 32 MPa and it's pretty well installed, guess what? Once that densifier is dried after had about an hour of curing, it'll be okay to get onto. It doesn't require as much assistance. That's why it's really important, like Kurt says, to read the floor, understand the materials that you're working with, and having a good understanding of what each component is supposed to do in the process of your manufacturing to get the right results at the end.
Yeah.
Kurt, you mentioned before about that, working at 50s, working at 100s. One question I get asked a bit is there a particular point that all of a sudden you're using lithium, or what would you use in that scenario?
Oh, look, honestly, I only really got introduced to lithium probably 2 years ago, and I had been producing, thousands and thousands of meters before that without lithium with great results. So I started having to play around with it when we're talking exposed aggregate more in the high range, when we got higher into the polishing, the 200s, the 400s. And I guess what we're talking about there is we want to build the foundations up. We want to build the level up to where the polish needs to be, yeah? That's what we're looking for. So sometimes on a floor, I might see a slight bit of boniness, or I just need a little bit more, but I don't want to put that high build of potassium on there, because I might be using a tool that's not really a high honing tool. And, a polishing tool like a 400, you can take off lithium with that, but it's still a polishing tool. So if you're just asking that little bit more out of your floor just to get that clarity and that pop, lithium could be good. But once again, I would always do a side by side and go, hey, do I need to go to lithium or do I not? And the floor, I'm going to read the floor to tell me whether or not I need to put that much more effort and time into the floor to go that way.
Brings into my mind that the way Josh explained to me, or I think it may have even been Daniel who originally explained it to me or reiterated it to me, is that if you've got a pool that you're filling up with densifier, or call it basketballs, being potassium, and then if you get to the point where you're near the very, very top level, you can't put more basketballs in, you put tennis balls in, which is lithium, just to finish off that little level there.
Good balls.
So what do you use the pool for now?
Just to play hide and seek in. Marco Polo.
That was Papa Pim plays in there, basketball.
I mean, look, if I don't want to go too deep into it, with lithiums, when we're talking white slabs and we're talking, high decorative slabs as well, lithium's a good place to introduce it a little bit earlier than potassium if you're trying to keep that colour down. I know a lot of contractors use that methodology, and I think that's fine. They all have a place, but it all goes back to still setting the foundations up and still reading that floor.
There's two more things I'd like to mention as well. Obviously, we've spoken about now the importance of densification and building up. I don't know if everybody else knows, is that the actual reaction with the densifier is so crucial, is because it reacts with the actual cement, not the actual stone. So because we have a lot more density within the stone or the aggregates. So when we're looking at a floor and it's bony, so it's actually the stones sitting higher or by a tiny little bit than the actual matrix, because we're eating at the matrix and it's still brittle, so it hasn't had enough strength. So my whole point is also, how far, let's say we've done a bony floor, how far do I need to go back to fix this?
Not too far.
Just a quick reprofile with a non-invasive, possibly ceramic tool. Kurt, is that what you'd go? Actually, I'll leave Kurt to answer that question. They're not going to be involved in that.
Look, probably a ceramic wouldn't be a tool of choice for me these days. It's just in that application, in the type of work that we do, it just would open up the floor a little bit too much than what I would need to be at. I would find that 100 a specialty or a 50 specialty with a slight mist of densifier in front of it to cause abrasion again and get that tool cut into where I need to be, would be happy days. I'd be going at the lower end of the honing tools, 50s, 100s. I could even throw an aqua in there. It'd be a little bit more gentle on the floor than what a ceramic would be.
Yeah.
And as you say there, Kurt, I've run into the problem a couple of times over the last month or so that, yes, super important to that bit of densifier, get that texture back for the tool to work on.
I think the other thing, and I had a conversation with Josh, I think it was last week, is the importance of, obviously, like we already said, getting enough densifier in there, but the more we open up that floor, the deeper we allow that product to go and actually react with more
calcium hydroxide.
Calcium hydroxide, there it is. Yeah, so it makes sense to sort of go back a little bit further to allow that initial reaction to actually, do, because like you're going to see that the benefit towards the end.
Look, the other issue that I have is with not going back far enough, right, is that if you don't, you have to create a new surface effectively, okay, because the silicate from the densifier, right, doesn't react with silicate, all right? There's no reaction there. It doesn't go hard. That is a soft product. It needs to have access to calcium hydroxide that's, in the cement. It needs to have access to the calcium hydroxide to actually create that calcium silicate reaction. That's the really strong stuff. So silicate on silicate does nothing. It's a soft product, all right? It needs to get access to that raw concrete again. So if you're trying to fix a floor and you don't go back very far, you're just basically putting lipstick on a pig.
Yep.
And it's going to look that way in 6 months from foot traffic.
Yeah, good point. Bloody good point.
It'll look quite murky as well.
Yeah.
If you're not using the right profile, the right coating tool to remove that. And just going back into the lithium and potassium thing, of late I've seen a few floors where what Daniel was saying before, where the cement and the stone, this stone's a lot shinier, and just by breaking down the process, sometimes the densifiers, the different types of densifiers have been, I would say, put in at the wrong stage. It just comes back down to, once again, reading that floor and building that floor up before you start going into another type of densifier.
So it's also understanding all the movable components of your machine as well. Like you've got demo heads under there, you've got rib change flexes, you've got standard rib changes, you've got tooling that is more flexible than others. So we need to understand what kind of tool, when we have a more critical floor that we know we've poured just 120 liters on a 100 square meter project of potassium into the floor because it's just been very thirsty. We've got to then really consider also the tooling we're going to use and just to eliminate some of these things. So what are the recommendations, gentlemen? What can we use to less likely get a Boney floor when we know we have a critical floor?
I think that the most critical part is going to be point of rejection. Okay, point of rejection first with your initial densifier application. And I'm surprised that we've gotten this far into the conversation. I thought Kurt was going to mention before. He nearly did it.
I just stop. I can say it. I'm going to say it.
He's getting old and forgetful.
What, Kurt?
I'm going to say that if you were to experience a project that is going to be the Boney floor, and if we can capture a bit of Daniel's tool side of things and the densifier things, to have an array of the right stuff next to you, to be able to do a control sample, to work.
Sample! There it is!
Sample! Everyone take a shot.
Just do a sample. If you're on a floor like that, let it tell you what it needs and let it tell you what tooling is going to perform the best. Have it all there, side by side, ready to go. Sample, sample, sample.
I freaking love it. So your tool is your sample. That is your tool. I like it.
Your best tool.
We don't have the luxury of knowing the materials you're working with all the time. So having an array of tooling that we can put on these floors, especially these Boney soft floors, well, we can then lock in a process that'll work. Otherwise, we rock up to a job and it's a little bit of a guessing game. And then that's when things fall apart, not just the floor.
I just wanted to make two quick comments, and please, absolutely, anyone correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not just talking old slabs. It could be new slabs. And I assume with all the edges, we're just, like we normally do, we're following suit with the main floor.
Once again, it's reading the floor. Like you could say run the whole sequence through on the edges, but when you start reading a floor as well, yes, that is the process. But so much stuff that you can tweak to get the result that you need at the end by understanding the floor and what the end result's going to be. Like I'll always take up an edge before I even continue up on all my edges to work out what my edge process is going to be. Do you know what I mean? Like that's another sample.
Edge sample. Everyone have a shot.
Sample.
It took him a long time to get into it. Now we can't stop him.
Oh, there it is, guys. Another very important topic which we got asked weekly. Remember, you got to know what the densifier is that you're putting on the floor and what the application is. If you're not sure what the materials you're working with, then it's very important to do a sample. And remember, check out our Boost densifiers on our website or give one of us a call. Drop us a comment if you agree or disagree with what we've talked about. And until next week, gentlemen, we'll catch you soon.
Happy Friday. Cheers, boys.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks.